of the City Kalamazoo Planning Commission. We'll call it to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Burgess,
Here in Kalamazoo.
Chambers, Harrison, Milliken,
Here in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Phelps,
Here in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Patelko,
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Pitts,
Here in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Swan,
Here in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Bias.
Here in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. We were all given a copy of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Motion by Burgess. Is there a second?
Second by Swan.
We'll go second by Swan. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
same. All right, motion passed. Thank you. We were also sent minutes of the October 7th, 2021 meeting of the Planning Commission. Were there any comments or changes or questions about those minutes? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the October 7, 2021 meeting?
Here, I'll move to approve the
Motion.
minutes.
Thank you. Motion by Phelps. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Second by Burgess. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Oh, no, sorry. All right, good. Motion passed. Communications and announcements. Are there any announcements or communications?
Not at this time.
Great, thank you. So that moves us into our public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening. As we have with all of our virtual meetings, we'll be taking public comment via telephone call. So if you have a comment on the public hearing, please call 269-226-6573. You'll be given an option of two mailboxes, one to leave a message on this item, the other for non-agenda items, which we'll listen to later on in the agenda. We will listen to this after we hear the staff report and we hear from the applicant, then we will listen to the public comments that are left. And at that time, the public hearing and public comment period will be closed and we will no longer take comments on this agenda item. So again, that phone number, 269-226-6573. With that, we will proceed to PC 2021.17. Heirloom Arts LLC is requesting approval of a special use permit at 1919 Stearns Avenue, authorizing the placement of a tattoo shop and art gallery in a building in the RM15 district. Can we get a staff report, please?
Pete, real
sorry.
quick before you start, Chair, I see that Commissioner Harrison has arrived. So I just want to make sure that the minutes reflect that he's here and I have it in the attendance.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I'll bring up the presentation for tonight's public hearing. All right, and everybody's able to see the slide layout there coming in. Okay, great, thank you. All right, good evening, commissioners. So the
Excuse
first,
me.
excuse me? I'm sorry, is there an audio problem or am I coming through?
I'm having some technical difficulties. Just as you're starting here, I got knocked off the meeting and I'm back, and I intended to speak up before this agenda item began. It's my intention to abstain from this section. I live a couple houses down from the structure in question. And I think it's appropriate that I do not participate. So I'm going to turn off my camera and my microphone and just listen in if that's appropriate.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Pete, thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you, Commissioner Burgess, for clarifying the situation. So tonight's public hearing deals with 1919 Stearns Avenue, and this property is a commercial building. It is located in the RM15 district. The RM15 district in the use table in Chapter 4 does have a clause that, shall I say, a line item for retail businesses and service establishments, identifying them as a special use in the RM districts, whether it's RM15 or RM36. But it does identify retail businesses and service establishments. And then, as I will talk about there, it narrows down the window of what's eligible to go into an RM district to a certain degree. But so tonight we have May Risk from Heirloom Arts LLC and some of her business partners that are going to speak after I'm done with this presentation. But I wanted to roll through and so I got to do it up here. Okay, I'll roll through the slides here. And yeah, my format it's not coming up the way I thought it was going to on my screen, but as long as everybody can see the front face of the building, this is the view from Stearns of the building. It was built as a single family home back in the it says 1970, and then it was converted to office use. The ordinance back at in that point in time was allowing for office type uses, and in these RM districts, as we're now calling them. So this is the front view, the rear or east side of the building. You can see the rear entrance. So there is an entrance for the upper level, which is the tenant space that Heirloom Arts is looking at occupying. And then there's a tenant space in the lower level as well. And then as we pan around the property, so you can see the edge of the parking lot, and you can see the single family home that faces Maple Street. And as I keep working around here, this is looking this is looking west towards Stearns. And you can see the single family homes across the street. And then if I pan over to the south, you can see the side of the single family home that's adjacent to it on the south side. So there it is, it does have residential on three sides, and then to the east is where it shares a parking lot with another office building, and then it backs up to the YMCA, which we'll get into that in more detail here in just a minute. But as far as the zoning of the area, you can see this block is all in the RM15 zone district, all the way down to Hudson and beyond Hudson. And then you can see in the corner, down in the would be the southeast corner, where it starts to transition over to office use in that part of this neighborhood as we get closer to West Crosstown. Looking at the surrounding uses in more detail, you can see this is the subject property here. This is the office building that it has a connecting parking lot with, YMCA location, the church directly across the street from the Y, and then of course the Maple Street Magnet School on the north side of, not the north side, the east. Yeah, that would be the north side of Maple Street there. And then I've indicated SF for single family, showing the homes along Stearns and at the corner of Maple and Stearns. So, in summary here, you can see that there's a variety of uses on that block. With especially, as I'll point out, there's a lot of uses that involve children with the school and the YMCA and the church. Those comments, which we're going to hear later, there is traffic that comes through here on a regular basis for the other uses, and especially this office building and the number of tenants in that. So I think, it's really a mixed use area, and that should be taken into account. Looking at the existing land use layout, you can see what's classified as commercial property on here. So that's the other office building. And then, of course, this is the subject property we're talking about tonight. So this gives you a real clear picture of the uses around it and their classification. Future land use map identifies this area as R2 residential. So it is supporting, the residential housing types that are allowed in R2, as well as the special uses that are allowed in that R2 district. As far as looking at the other, excuse me, not there yet. As far as looking at the, other classifications and means for, this being in line with city commission agendas. I mean, this is a local business that is expanding in the city of Kalamazoo. We're trying to expand and stay within the city of Kalamazoo. And, that is always an important part of what we're trying to do here, is hold on to our businesses and allow them to flourish and grow in our city limits. Just want to talk for a brief minute about outreach. We sent the public hearing notice, as we always do. We posted the notice in the newspaper. I talked at length with May Risk, and she and her counterparts actually delivered some flyers, which were very informative to the surrounding property owners on Stearns and Maple, even the office building behind them. So they went out and did that as well, which was very well received. I received some emails after that, and some of the folks I spoke to really appreciated the additional information beyond what the city put out and what was in the agenda packet. So that leads us to talk briefly here about the rationale. And I will also mention that as far as feedback, before I get into the rationale, we did get a total of 9 responses, which were shared with the city commissioners. And there were letters of support that were in that batch. There was some emails of opposition. There was also some emails that were just expressing concerns and asking questions. But all the feedback that was received by staff has been relayed to the planning commissioners. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the review criteria used for evaluating a special use permit. And under the first category, the proposed special use is appropriate for the proposed location and compatible with the character of the surrounding area. The building has been utilized in the past by the Boy Scouts of America for retail space and office space. I'm sure some folks remember going in that store when it was there. It was then used as counseling services. In fact, there's still some online advertisements about the way they had broken it up into offices, and they were marketing those offices for rent after the the larger counseling service went out. There currently is a yoga studio operating out of the lower level. So, the square footage and the layout of the floor space accommodates the proposed use, with no alterations really planned. And there is barrier-free access into the building. That is something that was brought up, that does need to be looked at to make sure it is up to date as far as the barrier-free access. So that would be handled by the site plan review process. The site also has approximately 22 paid parking spaces, which can accommodate the proposed special use on the upper level, as well as a second tenant on the lower level. The second one, the proposed special use complies with 4.2 standards of the ordinance. The zoning ordinance allows for retail sales and service uses to be considered a special use for a building in the RM15 district when the building is 50 years or older, which this one is, contains more than 3,500 square feet of floor area, which this is over 4,000, with a usable space in the basement, and where the sales are limited to finished pieces of arts, fine arts, and crafts. So, so as you can see, when we talk about retail sales and service being allowed in the RM15 district, the retail sales portion has got a very narrow scope. And that's what I wanted to point out right there. And then the number 3 is the location design of the proposed minimizes the adverse effects, including visual impacts and other impacts on the adjacent lands. Here, after reviewing the property, we really looked at the fact that there's no change to the building, there's no change to the parking lot. Through the site plan review process, there may be some parking lot lighting that needs to be added. I don't know if a dumpster is necessary. If it is, then a screening fence around that dumpster would be required. That really there's as far as I've been made aware, there's no plans for exterior changes. And then all these services going on in the property will occur inside the building. For those that are familiar with the natural features protection, this property is not in the natural features protection overlay. And, again, what features are on the site are going to remain. Number 4, that the proposed special use minimizes the environmental impacts. The business activity that's proposed for this retail sales and service use, is contained within the building. A tattoo business or a body art type business is regulated by the state of Michigan. So there is standards that they have to uphold as far as, the equipment used, the disposal of ink and materials. There's nothing under the environmental impact area that really sounds any alarm bells here. That there's road access that is adequate for the special use. We did not see any difficulty with the road access. In fact, there is the linkage through the parking lots. So in the event there was a fire or for some reason another way out was necessary to get away from the building, the parking lot is connected with the office building that faces Maple Street. And so that could be used as a second means of egress to get out onto a public street if necessary. Number 6, that the proposed special use is designated to ensure safe ingress and egress. We just talked a little bit about that. Yes, it has its own ingress egress, but it also has a connection to another parking lot. The site has adequate facilities, so that is not of concern. And it's got adequate access for emergency vehicles. Number 9 talks about the off-street parking and required landscaping and so forth, and other standards that would apply in Chapter 6 that would also include lighting, and that too would be addressed through site plan review. So just as you're thinking through this tonight, the next step for this retail sales and service use is site plan review. So if, some of the issues that come up, may be issues that would be addressed during the site plan review process. So just keep that one in mind. And then the last one is the proposed special use complies with the standards imposed on it by all other applicable provisions of the ordinance. And again, those would be items, if they're not in compliance now, they'd be looked at through site plan review. So that is what I've got to add this evening for the staff report, and I'm available to answer any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pete. Are there any clarifying questions or technical questions for staff at this time? Yes, Ms. Phelps.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Pete. I didn't see, and maybe I missed it. Can you tell us if we've received communication one way or the other from the yoga studio on this issue? Whether they're in favor of or
We've not received any correspondence from the yoga studio. The property owners, well, the surrounding property owners received notice. We don't typically notice the property that is the subject of the review. So to answer that.
thank you.
Great. What other questions do we have for staff? None right now?
I'm sure they'll come up with some.
All right.
Okay, well, and May would love to talk more about her business if everybody's ready for that next step here.
Sounds perfect.
Hi.
All right.
Oh,
Can you guys hear us okay? All good? Perfect. Okay, shall we take it away? Okay, cool. All right. Hi, my name's May Risk. I'm the shop manager at Heirloom Arts LLC. This is my partner Tempest, and they are the shop owner. This is Stephanie Nagel. She is one of our artists and is a floor manager. She is heavily involved in all of this whole process. She's fantastic. Thank you so much, Pete, for all of that information. I did not expect you to go so above and beyond in all of that. Oh my gosh, you really nailed it. Thank you so much for doing all that research. That was amazing. So a little bit about our business. We are a queer-owned, female-run tattoo, like a boutique tattoo shop and 2B art gallery. We've always wanted to have a strong art presence in the Kalamazoo community. Currently, we are at 505 West Vine Street in the Vine neighborhood, in a very, very small, compact area, which I don't know if you've ever been in one of those little spots. There's not a whole lot of room for an art gallery. It's wee. But if we were able to move into this area on Stearns, there is so much space for a beautiful art gallery. And so we would be able to not only be able to focus on our tattooing business, which obviously would be the forefront, but we'd be able to open up into painting classes, art gallery showings, art hop type events, things like that, which would be amazing. And we're so psyched to do that because I feel like that's kind of a missing thing on that side of town. And I think that would be a really interesting thing. One more thing about our shop is we are an education-based shop. Tempest here has a little gaggle of apprentices, and we love to teach, especially young queer femme folks, how to tattoo, because in the body art industry, there is a huge just lack of femme presence in that industry. It's a very cis man heavy industry, and we are taking it personally that we are going to change that, dang it. And so we are, that is, excuse me, our mission statement in a way. To touch on some of the things that I've heard that Pete relayed to me from like concerns as far as what he got back. I've heard that there were issues that some folks heard about us being 24 hours. we are not 24 hours. Our dear friend Google does not allow us to have an option of appointment only. And so when you don't say any hours, it just goes ahead and says, we're 24 hours. So always. And I field all the emails for our shop. And because of that, we get so many emails being like, hey, can I come get a tattoo at 3 a.m.? We do not do that. We operate typically between like 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday or Sunday sometimes. So to quell any fear about that, those are our typical hours of operation, but we don't want to put that on the website necessarily, just because then we don't want someone sitting on Tuesday at 8 p.m. being like, hey, where you at? One of the other issues were, do you
Loitering?
Yeah, loitering. Because I think when people think of tattoo shops, they think of like a hard like biker situation where people are out smoking. That is not us. We are soft. We are pink. Tempest Tattoo Room in particular is bubblegum themed. There are unicorns. There are flowers. It's beautiful.
Very soft.
Very soft. We are not that type of tattoo shop. We are going to be very art focused. Very just soft focused.
We don't take walk-in appointments. We're appointment only. So we never have someone just kind of waiting around for an artist to become available. Our artists show up for the appointment when the client shows up, and we leave when that appointment is finished. So we're only there when we are actively working.
And the space waiting room really gives us the opportunity to allow people to hang out inside rather than, feel like they need to walk around to a coffee shop. We really love the big open window office space in there. It's a perfect place to set up art gallery stuff, host artists, and then let people hang out and wait for their friend to get done getting tattooed.
I noticed one of the staff questions was, has the person downstairs been notified? We actually know her personally. So yes, we left a flyer with her studio. We didn't see her in person, but Stephanie and I are Western grads and took one of her yoga classes in our senior year of undergrad. So she's lovely. She's a lovely yoga instructor. If you ever need a yoga class,
Very serendipitous.
10 out of 10 would recommend her. She's lovely. Other than that, I don't have any.
I think that covered the big concern.
I was gonna say, I think that's all the big stuff we talked
We're quiet.
about. Yeah, we are not the kind to throw parties. At most, we'd host an art hop on Friday evenings, but that usually is over by like 9 o'clock. So yeah, that's pretty much the extent of the social things we plan to do. Not quite as like loud as like the wine and paint parties that like some places in town host. We obviously won't be having liquor or anything like that in the building. So it'll be more like low-key teaching art classes rather than
a party.
There's
paint there also.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that's, yeah. If you got questions, we're ready for them.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it. Are there any questions that commissioners have for the applicants? Oh, yes, Mr. Harrison.
One of the questions I wanted to ask is just how does the group see the business fits in the community currently as it's established? The second part of that question is, did they identify any other locations for businesses within Kalamazoo? And I think the third one is probably a question for Pete. And it was more aligned with the special permit use. Is it just for this group and this organization going to this institution, or does it stick with the property no matter what happens to this group as they transition? Like if they find someplace better and they get bigger, does that special permit use need to be changed by the commission, or does it stay established? So 3 questions, that's it, I'm out.
Okay, I'm gonna take it. Yeah. Okay, so the first one is where we are in the community. Yeah. So we started in 2018. Tempest and one of our colleagues, Eddie, started the business in 2018 at a different location on Gull Road. We were there for a very brief moment, and then we moved to the Vine Street location in 2019. We made it through the pandemic. We did it by the skin of our teeth, but we did it. And then we've been there ever since, and now we're trying to move elsewhere into this building now. As far as how we see ourselves in the community in like a deeper sense, I feel that we are a safe space for the queer community. That is one of my proudest things that I feel like that we have achieved as a shop, is being like this beacon of safeness for a lot of queer little folks. A lot of the emails that I get as shop manager are like, oh my God, I can't believe I found this place. This looks amazing. You guys have created this like beautiful little space. Thank you so much for being such a different type of tattoo shop. And that's really, really lovely.
It's very common within the industry to have people who enjoy the tattoo that they got, but they didn't enjoy their experience. And something we really pride ourselves on is prioritizing the people enjoying being there and feeling supported and feeling taken care of, instead of sort of shuffling somebody in and out and doing the product, but not creating a personal connection. So I feel like we really fill a niche that's missing in the industry and also in the community, in the sense that there isn't a tattoo shop that fills those requirements here.
Yes. And then to answer the second question about if we looked in other spaces, we did look at, I think 3 other spaces pretty seriously. There's Ye Old Laundromat on West Edge. They've got the yoga studio. So we looked at the 3rd unit for that, and the yoga girls beat us to it. They wanted to expand into the whole building. And then the second place we looked at was on the mall. Do you guys know where Kitten Flower Boutique is? The piercing studio? It's actually right behind there, but it's too small for our wants and needs and the amount of people we have. And then when the other 2 fell through, I had just been kind of looking online, and our realtor, I was like, hey, this place looks small. It's got everything like in its little cubbies. Like we each have our own private room. And like Tempest said, it lends us the ability to have privacy for a lot of those people. We don't often do full body tattoos, but we do have ones where, the customer needs to have their shirt removed and bra on, kind of stuff like that. So we don't get the kind of privacy at our current studio that we really would like and need, especially a private bathroom is a huge thing for us. And then aside from like fitting into the community, we've all lived here for multiple years. I actually grew up here in Portage, and we care a lot about small business, like almost an annoying amount. We've all been talking about what little places on the mall we're going to go to. So as sad as we are to hopefully leave the Vine, we're hoping that this place gives us the ability to reach out farther in the community, to give ourselves our own space that is not also clouded by, there's another tattoo shop near us, but across the street from Fourth Coast, I think 7 Chakras. And we often get confused for them, and which is fine, they're their own shop, but
We do different things.
we do different things, and we'd really like to make a name for ourselves in our own space.
And then the 3rd part was for Pete, I believe.
Yes, it was. Yes, thanks for keeping that up for me. Yes, Commissioner Harrison, the special use permits, go with the use of the land. So for example, this would be tied to this retail business and service establishment. Now, if a similar type of business were to move in, then this special use permit would stay in effect. If a different type of special use moved in, like say a church wanted to take over this property and set it up for a religious assembly use, then they would have to come back to the Planning Commission and apply for a special use permit. So, so there are some examples where, the special use permit would continue with the next user. But there's, in many cases, it's, the next user ends up having to go back to the Planning Commission and request a special use permit all over again. Does that help answer that a little bit?
Okay. Any other questions for the applicants at this time? Yeah, Ms. Phelps.
Thank you, Chair. Real quick, just about how many artists do you have working in your shop right now?
4 full-time
And
and 3 apprentices. So 7 people. And I think it, like, say we were to move in like at the first of the year or something like that, I think there's about 3 of us that would be in there for a decent amount of time. Whereas the other, like, our apprentices are also students at Western. So they have part-time jobs and stuff. So they're really only in when they can make it in.
A couple artists live out of town.
And
as
then
well.
Sarah and 2 of our other artists live out of town. So me and Tempest and Erica, our other full-time artists, would be really the main ones in there for most of the time. in the
No one would
beginning.
ever be there all at the same time.
Oh yeah, no,
Ever.
that is not normal for us.
Thank you.
Great. Other questions for the applicant? Yes, Mr. Harrison.
A quick point of clarification, just to make sure I understand. So, you guys are taking the upstairs part, and the yoga studio would still be staying downstairs in the bottom half. And we are voting tonight on the special use of the upstairs portion of that studio or of that building.
That's correct.
Good clarity. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Seeing none, then thank you all. We will, at this time, open the public hearing. Do we have any comments that have been left for us on the voicemail?
Yes, there has been a couple comments, and I will get those queued up for you right away.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder, we had 9, I think, messages that were emailed and sent to us previous, so we have those in our packet as well.
Hi, this is Jeff Marsh. I live at 1911 Stearns Avenue. And personally, my wife and I are most worried about the amount of traffic coming in and us being right now on the other side of the parking lot. So especially from the point of view of headlights. And we were wondering, would it be possible to put in more trees in the area if this goes through, so that we wouldn't have to see as many? Thanks. Bye.
This
Yeah, I
is
don't-
Mary Stryker, and I live at 1922 Stearns Avenue, directly across from the building that the tattoo place would like to rent. And I am not for it. I am opposed to that business in our neighborhood because it is residential, has 2 schools, the YMCA, and a church. And I am worried about their hours, which will be 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Their signage, the sign shining into our houses, and the traffic in a residential neighborhood. Thank you. This is
Okay, that is the end of public comments.
Should we respond to
Okay.
that?
Is there like,
We'll ask you some questions if we have them about them.
Perfect.
Thank you.
With that, we will close the public hearing. And are there any clarifying questions for staff at this time? Yeah, Mr. Harrison.
I just wanted to ask about the process of communicating with the community and just the residents about the overall request. What was the process? What was the response outside of what we received and heard today and received in our packets?
Sure thing. So our approach was pretty simple. We put together a flyer, and Stephanie and I went around the whole block and handed out the flyer with a piece of candy.
Smarties.
Smarties specifically, excuse me, attached to the candy. Knocked on all the doors. Several people answered, and we explained a little bit about our business. If they didn't answer, we put them in the mailbox. Beyond that, that was more or less what we did. We didn't want to be too invasive because that felt
Pushy.
But yeah, we notified both on either side of the business and everyone around on Stearns right there.
And we didn't receive any emails or anything from anybody else, right?
No, we didn't hear anything from our end, and we had put both our contact information on that. And I believe we sent that flyer to Pete. So if you'd like to see that flyer, Pete has it in his file. So
And that was included in the packet. I did get the flyer in there.
Perfect.
Great.
Any other clarifying questions for staff at this time for the applicant? And Mr. Pitts.
Hello. Yeah, because I had just one. I guess it would be probably for Pete also. I heard two negative, phone comments. Were there any positive comments that were? I heard that you did say that there were some positive comments. So I don't know if I actually seen them in the packet. I may have looked over them, but could you speak on that as far as if you know of any or can recite any, if anyone could?
Well, I would have to, I can pull the list up, but yes, there were 3 letters of support that were part of that group of 9 correspondence that were sent to the board. And then there was, like I said, there was a couple emails that just expressed some concerns, but they weren't necessarily saying they were opposed to this particular use going in. Are you looking for what feedback was, what other feedback was near the subject property versus just other?
Well, I guess more because as far as you said 9 and there were 9 comments, but yet there were 3 positive, so there are 6 negative comments.
Yeah, I'd have to go. Yeah, I wouldn't. No, I can't characterize it like that because one of the emails was a series of questions that came from a member in the neighborhood, a citizen that lives in the neighborhood on Stearns, and so she asked me some questions. So I responded to her questions, and I included that particular email in the packet just to show the board the kind of questions that were coming in over the past week or so.
Right.
About this application.
Okay.
I'm going to interject. James, I think you maybe missed the email from Pete this morning that was sent. The letters of support and comments about the application were sent separate from the packet.
Oh, okay.
Those came in this morning.
Oh, okay. Let me check. All right, thanks.
Yes,
where
that would explain it.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thanks.
Thank you. Other clarifying questions?
I would like to point out in Mrs. Stryker's voicemail, she mentioned worry about a sign being bright and lighting into the house. That's also not something we plan to do. If anything, we'll put up like a sign, but it won't be backlit.
Like a sticker.
It won't have like neon or anything like that.
We don't do lit signs.
So even though I know she can't hear that, I felt like that was actually a pretty good thing she brought up. So I wanted to address that.
We don't have late traffic. Like I said, we operate typically between 12 and 8 p.m. So
at the latest, and that's pretty rare.
So late headlights going all over the place, that likely won't be.
We're usually out of there by 4 or 5 at the latest. It's a very rare occasion that anyone's there past that.
Thank you. Pete, just following up on the comments that were made on the phone, just a couple of the ordinance standard questions. The one about screening and traffic, that's more of a site plan issue, right? So that'll be any screening questions will be addressed during the site plan review process. Is that accurate?
That is correct. And that is something that was a noted deficiency when I did the site inspection, that there isn't any screening between the parking lot and the house that faces Maple Street. So, and there's minimal screening going the other direction. And then as far as the landscaping along the frontage on Stearns, I don't know if that meets the standard or not. There is a number of trees there. There is some shrubs, but that would also be looked at as far as the
Okay.
landscaping along the frontage of the property.
And I apologize. I'm trying to navigate a whole lot of stuff at the same time, and I'm not able to quickly find in the zoning ordinance. Can you tell me what the signage standards are in the RM15 district?
Yeah, for the RM 15 district, for a special use specifically, there is an allowance of up to 30 square feet for a freestanding sign that can be no taller than 6 feet in height and has to be set back 5 feet from the property line. And as far as illumination, the way the ordinance states it, it can be externally illuminated or internally illuminated. I mean, we're not in a historic district, so there isn't any, there isn't any step into those, sign standards that apply in a historic district. It would just be, specifically what comes out of Chapter 7 of the zoning ordinance. So yeah, so 30 square feet is the maximum size.
The existing sign there on Maple Street is a decent template for what might be permitted and could, not necessarily what is proposed or anything like that, but could exist.
Yeah, and that one sign could be on the building versus, out on the frontage of the property.
Sure. Great, thank you. Any other clarifying questions at this time? All right. Seeing none, just a reminder, we need a motion to go into discussion on the request. So if I could get a motion on the special use.
Chair, I'd like to move that we grant the special use permit for 1919 Stern Ave to Heirloom Arts LLC.
Right, we have a motion from Ms. Phelps. I saw Ms. Vias's support first, so second by Ms. Vias. All right, so now we're in discussion amongst the planning commissioners. All right. Yes, Ms. Phelps.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm really excited to see this business apply for this special use permit. I have personal experience on a number of occasions in their current location, and it is not sufficient for the work that they're trying to do. They've done a good job making do with what they have, but I think it's really important that we, as I've said in previous meetings, give small businesses in this community the opportunity to grow and thrive, particularly after and throughout this pandemic. Since Commissioner Burgess is abstaining from this conversation, and he's usually the guy who points out the highlights of the staff report, I think it's important to flag that staff report came up in a positive way. And this group is not intending to make any modifications to the property that will disrupt the character of the area. And it is appropriate for the capacity that is anticipated. And it fits the needs of the neighborhood plan, and also that it will be going through site plan review anyways to correct any issues. I did get a chance to go to the property, and I apologize to the folks at Collender Realty for peeking in their windows, but it's a gorgeous space. I really am excited for the opportunities and the things that the Heirloom folks could do with this space. And I'll just, finally, to wrap up a little bit, say that my work there that I had done at Heirloom Arts in the Vine neighborhood was done by one of the apprentices at the time. And I can't say how important it is that we not only support small businesses, but support organizations that are investing in local young talent, staying in the Kalamazoo area and giving them a path forward as true members of our community who can earn a living and spend their time and build their lives here. And so I'm grateful to see that this group is doing that, particularly for marginalized folks who have historically had a harder time with that. So all around, I think that this group represents the values of our community and the direction we want to head as a city of Kalamazoo. And I think that we should support them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else would like to talk? Mr. Harrison.
I also want to bring up the point about community economic development, how that we want to set our businesses up for success, especially when they enter new environments or come into any community that might not be knowledgeable about what they bring or provide. So just a comment to the commission about ways we can improve our neighborhoods, investing in our businesses as they come, so that it is a collaborative process and a welcoming environment, not only for the business, but also the neighbors. So it's a collaborative kind of approach as we grow our economic endeavors in Kalamazoo.
Great. Other comments? So do you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Thank you. Sorry to go a second round. I did forget to mention, I want to address some of the public comments that we received in our email and on the phone tonight. And I know there's some concern that this is a mostly residential area. But I just want to point out that where the location of this organization is right now is directly across from a KPS school in a highly congested area where the speed limit is, I'm pretty sure, the same on Vine Street as it is on Stern. I think they're both 25. So I just want to make that clear for members of the public that it's almost like you're just picking it up and putting it in a very similar location. I understand that the surrounding areas are zoned differently, but I just want to point that out for members of the public.
Ms. Weiss.
Yeah, and if I can just echo first that I second everything that Mariah has so eloquently put, and sort of to build off of your most recent comment about the immediate neighbors' concerns about maybe being near a school or the traffic. I think you guys have done a really great job finding a location that fits what you'll be serving in, within walking distance of this location. Of course, there's a yoga studio, but then there's also a building that has tenants that offer massage and body work and acupuncture. And I think across from the Y, there's more therapy and birth work. And so there is a lot of synergy with the businesses nearby. And hopefully that does elevate and expand your business. But generally, I want to commend the applicants for putting together a really well thought out, well planned application, one that is suitable both for your business and also for our community.
Thank you.
Other comments or discussion? I will say that this does meet the standards of the zoning ordinance as presented by the staff report. I will just echo everything that has been stated before. I commend you all for your risk taking and your prowess and your growth, and wish you the best of luck. I will say I don't have concerns for your position in this place. I do have concerns for your growth, and when you make a decision that this isn't the place you want to be long term and you move out and the next person comes in and we don't have the opportunity to have this conversation with them, and what might they do in that location. And so that's where I have my concerns, and how might that interact with the surrounding neighborhood and in that location. But that's not your problem, and I don't know that that's something that I want to stop this to proceed. I think that's a problem with our zoning ordinance, and that's something that we as a commission and a city staff need to address quickly to prevent that from going forward. Good luck. Any other comments? All right, with that, let's have a roll call vote.
Milliken,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Patelko,
Yes.
Pitts,
Yes.
Swan,
Yes.
Bias,
Yes.
Burgess abstain, Harrison,
Yes.
motion's approved.
Yay!
Excellent.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, moving on.
All
Thank
right,
you.
so we'll hear from you soon, Pete,
Yeah.
and we'll continue the process like we've been going through.
Correct. I will follow
Oh,
up.
no.
Are we frozen?
Oh, there it goes. Okay.
Okay, we're good. We're not good.
We're not good.
Thank you.
Suspense.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you so much,
so-
everybody.
Good luck.
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you. All right, do we go?
I
So
think we
moving
can-
on, we don't have any discussion or action items. Our first report is PC 2021-16, 4502 Campus Drive, a site plan review for Collection Inc., a building edition.
And we don't have many of these, but they come along every once in a while. So let me pull up the presentation here. All right. All right, so what we have this evening is a site plan review. And sorry, I've made a mess of my notes here. So the this business, Collection Inc., has been here since the early 2000s. They want to put a 2,000 square foot expansion on the northwest corner of the building. And came in, talked to staff. We informed them that part of the review process, not only is there site plan review with the in-house site plan review committee, but there is also a review by the planning commission. And the reason that these go to the planning commission is it's built into the ordinance that any site plans in the CBTR, the Commercial Business Technology and Research Zone District, which covers all of Western's BTR Park, they're all subject to review by the planning commission. And it was really, and continues to be a safety net to make sure that the public is informed as to what is going on in this business park, being that it is adjacent to, a planned unit development, and there are other wetlands in the area. So it's a process that we enjoy having because it's in the ordinance, but I know it catches planning commissioners off guard because you look at this and you think, well, didn't we delegate that to the Administrative Site Plan Review Committee? And the answer is yes. That process is still going on a parallel track to this being talked about tonight. So let's get into this in more detail. So here's a view of the from Campus Drive of the Collection facility. For the board members that have in the back of your packet, when you look at that site plan view, that top-down view of the northwest corner of the site, this is what it actually looks like with the bushes back next to the building. But this area is where they're looking to put the 2,000 square foot addition. As it's mentioned in the staff report, they're not adding any, they're not planning to add any employees. So the parking will not be expanded. The positioning of this addition will be a ways away from the road. This view is from Research Way, showing the trees and the natural grasses and plantings that are between the sidewalk and that side of the building. So it's well within the bounds of the required 50-foot setback, minimum setback that's required for that district. And here's the current zoning map. As I mentioned, the whole CBTR area is subject to this additional review step by the Planning Commission. So I just wanted to share that. Again, this lays out the campus designation in the future land use map. When we talk about the City Commission priorities, and as was mentioned with the last request, it's always great to see an existing business that we're able to retain. In this case, Collection's been successful, so successful that they now need to put an addition on their building, and they're able to, stay in place and not have to relocate, with this building addition, which is a great thing. So I'm going to introduce tonight the folks from Rockford Construction that are going to talk a little bit more in detail about this project. But I wanted to articulate for the board, it was in the packet or is in the packet. Just what the recommendation is based on from staff is that we have completed the pre-application process, which is step one of the site plan review that was done on October 27th. And, based on that, the outcome of that meeting, the limited scope of this addition, which is only 2,400 square feet, and the comments from the reviewers that there isn't concerns raised that, that showing that this project can't move forward. There's simply additions and modifications that need to be made to the draft plan that was presented at that October 27th meeting. So I'm not sure if it's going to be Josh Strouts that's going to lead off the discussion tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll let, there's Josh, but I'll let his team talk briefly about the review that occurred. And then I can jump in if there's anything else that needs to be mentioned. So Josh, what we did is we provided the list of all the preliminary items found in that meeting that was built in with the staff report. So they've seen the comments about the fire hydrant and relocating shrubs and so on and so forth. But I know you have you have a revised plan that you can share with us tonight?
Well, I think I have just the updated civil plans that we did not have as part of that. Yeah, as part of that original submission package. So I can share those if you'd like me to, or.
Yep. So then I will step away here. All right.
All right. And let me know if that pops up for everyone.
Yep. We can see it.
So appreciate your introduction to the project, Pete, and thank you everyone for your time this evening. Like Pete said, I'm Josh Strouts here from Rockford Construction on behalf of the applicant. And then, so we would be doing construction, and then we're actually doing the architectural design work for the proposed addition as well too. So 2,040 square feet, pretty simple addition here. So I don't want to go into too much detail here this evening. Obviously, as Pete mentioned, adding on to the existing northwest corner of the building. We're fitting it in before we get to the roadway and the parking area to the north there. So there will be no change to vehicular circulation. Everything stays the same with that parking layout. No additional parking spaces needed based on the function of that addition itself. It's just kind of an extension and actually appropriately sizing the lab space that's currently on the interior. So it's just giving them a little bit more breathing room because they're already on top of each other as it is, and kind of bleeding out into hallways with some of their equipment. So not a whole lot from a site plan standpoint with regards to additional parking. We'll be mindful of landscaping and providing all the requirements I believe that we've been discussing with Pete and his team, at least from a site plan review standpoint. So, and then also with part of that office park process that we have to go through, we will be submitting essentially a full set of permit level plans for Western to review. They actually don't like to see just the site plan approval package. They want to get as detailed as wall sections, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and structural drawings as well. So I feel very confident that we can work with Pete and his team from the city to basically have every stone unturned, because there are probably a couple non-conforming conditions that we've identified. One of them being bike rack location, and then secondary, the fire hydrant that Pete had noted, getting coverage to that north elevation there. This is kind of one note, and I don't know how pertinent this is for the discussion this evening, but there will be a future addition within the next, hopefully 3 to 5 years, that will want to continue westward. So I think that we would love to have some flexibility with Pete and his team, if anywhere possible, without obviously making too much of a deviation from anything that needs to be fulfilled or required per zoning ordinance, to be mindful of utilities and any additional kind of infrastructure that we have to the west of the existing building, so that we can obviously set us up for another addition that will be coming down the road here. So from an architectural standpoint, very simple plans, obviously lab supporting office space, material storage, and then actually kind of turning a receiving area to the east. It's screened away from Research Way, so it kind of frees up and doesn't have a good visual or bad visual appearance from the roadway. So I think it's probably better than their current conditions with the receiving door over here. And just kind of, if there's anything that's hanging out here, it's now all contained within a much larger, more appropriate storage area. So hopefully fixing any wrongs that they have currently. Then from an exterior material standpoint, we are making a slight deviation from the existing CMU block split face that's on the exterior of the building, going with a metal panel, just a bit more readily available right now with the current climate that we're dealing from a construction market. And it's a little bit more cost effective as well too. But there's several precedents within this office park or industrial park that this metal panel has been used on many other buildings as well too. So don't feel like that's a large deviation from an exterior materiality standpoint. And then last kind of image I have here would just be of that future office and lab space. So the plan right now is to not completely build out that lab. That lab is kind of dependent upon a couple of contracts that Collection has, and they're working on internally. So the full kind of scope of this lab and what type of equipment is in there is not yet defined by them. So the primary function would be to get this receiving and storage and kind of finished product area, a little bit of office space as well too, but this lab is yet to be determined. But we want to show you today at least what is planned, so that we can hopefully go in approval for everything all at once. So with that, I'll kind of open it back up to you guys to see if you have any questions or if you need anything else from either Catherine or myself. She's on with me tonight.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions for staff or the applicant at this time? And just speak up, because I can't see everybody's faces right now, which is totally fine. Mr. Burgess, I think I see you acknowledging. I think you're on mute or frozen in time. Wow, oh, there you are. Well, we'll come back to David. Anyone else have any questions for staff or the applicant?
Chair, I have a question.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. My question is for the applicant. Just, you mentioned the hope of expanding again 3 to 5 years. I'm just wondering why not right now? Why not do it all at once?
So Collection has a lot of work that's tied to contracts with what they do for I think it's kind of lab testing and services that they provide to other people. So I think that a lot of their business hinges upon those contracts and revenue from a revenue standpoint. So they obviously with the market and pricing as it is currently within the construction industry, I think that they would love to, but they just can't do it unfortunately right now.
Thank you.
Commissioner Phelps, and I can also add that I think a lot of these buildings in this BTR park are intentionally positioned with added green space around them to allow for additions. In 2018, we had another business, probably 3 parcels down the street from this one on Campus Drive that did a small building addition also. So, and this next addition that Josh mentioned, so that the front setback, the building setback is 50 feet back from the front property line. And as you can see, they've got easily 100+ feet there. So they've got cushion to work with. And I just, I think it's an intentional layout, which does allow for these, these gradual expansions over time, which is great. I mean, expandable facilities.
Yeah, one additional comment, if I can add it in. We have a very aggressive schedule that has been determined by Collection as well, which is probably driving the size of the addition. I mean, they want this done within the first quarter of 2022. So that's also another reason why we're focusing this small as opposed to the whole thing.
Mr. Burgess, you're back. You have a question. Oh, there. I will come back to you. Other questions? Oh. Okay.
It's going to be a good question too.
It was. I was ready for it. Whenever, just interrupt us. Just unmute and interrupt us and talk when you're ready. Other questions? Pete, if you can, I think you mentioned it during your presentation. If you can just clarify, are we the approving body or are we a recommending body to the site plan committee? I just want to make sure we get our motion correct when we get to that point.
Well, you are providing, you are approving the proposed site plan at the planning commission level. And then there is the secondary approval that will be so you are providing planning commission approval for the site plan, but it also is subject to administrative approval, which would be the final site plan approval. I think I just muddied the waters on that.
Yeah, so a motion would be we would move for presuming this is where it's at, we would move for approval conditional upon approval of the site plan committee. Would that be an appropriate response?
Yes, that would.
Okay. All right. Is that everybody understand what just transpired? I see some nods. I see some. Okay. Giving Mr. Burgess 2 more seconds. Seeing none of this is not a public hearing, so we have no public comments on this. Seeing no other hands in the air, do we have a motion on this request? Perhaps something similar to what was just put together.
Chair, I'll move that we approve the site plan review at the planning commission level, contingent upon staff site plan approval.
Do we have support?
Support.
Support by
Support.
Patelka. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, can we get a roll call vote?
Bias,
Yes.
Swan,
Yes.
Pitts,
Yes.
Patelko,
Yes.
Phelps,
Yes.
Milliken,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
and Burgess. Technical difficulties. The motion passes. Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
I don't even know if I can vote. I've only heard half the discussion, so I apologize. I vote yes. I'm in proof.
Thank you. Thank you all. Great. All
Thank
right.
you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Moving on to city planners report.
So in lieu of a report tonight, we have 2 updates from other staff this evening. The first is going to be Bobby Durkee, who's our planner, who's going to give a presentation, just kind of an update for you on site plan review and some changes we've made and, things like that. And then Jamie McCarthy will be up next, and she is going to update you on Kalamazoo sustainability strategy. So with that, I think we start with Bobby.
Well, I'll guess I'm on now. I know that the faces come and go. I'm gonna attempt to share my screen here, and it should work. We'll see. Do you guys see this? Okay, thanks. And let me get to my slideshow. All right, this is a good evening for this. Thank you for that introduction, Christina. Good evening, planning commissioners and members of the public. My name is Bobby Durkee. I'm planner 1 in the department, and one of my primary roles in the department is to chair the site plan review committee, which, as you know, is delegated annually from this body. And tonight was a good example because we saw 2 site plans. The Heirloom Arts project, I'm excited to see that one come forward. I think that's a good example of a smaller, lower impact site plan through a change of use. And then we have the large development in the BTR park. And so it's the gamut of all sizes. The review can be, a little technically overwhelming, I think, in some instances, but depending on the scale of work, a lot of things may not be looked at that I'll cover tonight. So a little bit of background, I wanted to go over the work that we do to update the Planning Commission and highlight some of the work we do and some things and lessons we learned in the pandemic and kind of the structure. It's not really being altered, but kind of how things are looking into 2022. As you guys know from the site plan lists or the things that come before you, there's a lot of development going on in Kalamazoo. So with that, a little bit of a background. In 2018, the site plan review process changed from completely paper review, paper copies distributed to multiple city staff across departments, to a primarily digital review process. We did require 1 set of paper plans with the digital copy. This was some unfortunate, fortunate foresight because once the COVID-19 pandemic hit, by March 2020, many city offices and departments closed, but we were already kind of set up with our process in a digital format. The only large change was switching over to a Zoom format instead of an in-person meeting. But because of the software we used to review it and the screen shareability, it was a really seamless transition. And even with all the closures, the site plan review process was able to continue. It didn't skip a beat. And something we've learned after 18 months of really being forced to mostly digital, we removed the paper requirement from policy, and that was done because all applicants, large and small, were able to accommodate the digital process. Staff can scan it. And in talking with archives, from an archival history perspective, they said you have to choose paper or digital. You don't want to do both. So that's kind of the background where we had this digital process in place, and it worked really well when COVID hit. So a quick overview, something I didn't put in, is what requires site plan review. It's generally three things. Either it's a change to a more intensive use, a building addition of over 250 square feet, and then all of that work is tied to projects that isn't a single family home or duplex. So sometimes, like the Heirloom Arts is a change to a more intensive use that kicks in the review, or like the Calixon project, the building addition size triggers the review, and obviously new construction. So I wanted to go over the committee and the staff that does the work, and then go over our process, and then a quick update on the annual meeting that we hold, an internal meeting about the process and what's working. So the site plan review committee is made up of multiple city department staff and professionals beyond planning and zoning. Before my current role, I was a reviewer as opposed to the chair of the bigger picture. And as part of this process, we have a permitting software that all reviewers have access to. Once the plan comes in, I'm able to put the plan in the system, so then it's opened up on a PDF that all of us can look at and write on over the review period. So as we all look at it separately, it's able to be developed, and I'm able to get all the summary of getting an idea if it's moving towards approval or needs some adjustments. And before a site plan can be approved, each reviewer has a box they have to check, essentially. No site plan gets approved until every reviewer approves the site plan. And then tied to that is no permits are issued until the site plan is approved. So whether it's soil erosion, your water connections, right-of-way work, building permits, all of that is designed to move forward after the site plan is approved. So briefly, I wanted to just go over the staff. I think we've got a lot of great staff that does great work, and they're all experts in their craft, and they put a lot of time and effort into site plan review. There's obviously a lot of questions and coordination, and this is on top of their day-to-day duties. So each one of these is the thing that has to be evaluated in the site plan, and obviously lower level projects would be a much less intensive review compared to, say, in new construction. But with that being said, for stormwater, Eric Satar is an engineer in the Public Services Department. Stormwater looks at the retention basins, the capacity of what goes into the stormwater system, and wellhead protection. The sanitary reviewer is Sohail Mangiani, who is another engineer in the Public Services Department. He looks at all the sanitary code and the connections to the sanitary system, whether that's for municipal, industrial, or any waste coming out of a building. The water reviewer is Anna Crandall. She is another senior civil engineer in the Public Services Department. Drinking water, fire suppression, anything that is dealing with getting your potable water to that building, and as the reviewer that reviews that information. Dennis Randolph is the traffic engineer. So any right-of-way changes, new approaches, sidewalks, anything that impacts the driving surface of the right-of-way is covered by Dennis. There is an environmental reviewer, and that is performed by Jean Talanda. She's the environmental programs manager in the Department of Public Services. So environmental reports, what chemicals are contained on the property, do care plans, and identifying hazards that need to be mitigated or addressed is Jean's responsibility. The public safety review is conducted by the Fire Marshal Scott Brooks. Fire truck access, safety concerns, lighting, anything related either to when public safety has to respond to that building to make sure that we can service it correctly. The building safety is evaluated through Roger Iveson, the building official. That shouldn't be confused for, say, the full building code inspection review, which occurs later, but that allows, to look at, outside impacts related to the building code, or able to get Roger and his team prepped before it goes on to permitting. And then the zoning review is done by Jared Chambers, who's the zoning inspector. He works close in tandem with me in my reviews, but I think he takes more of the surgical look down deep into the zoning ordinance, where my review is planning, is alignment with the master plan, and kind of looking at the big picture or linking the connections between all these different bodies to get it to work or find that happy middle. And then as needed, there could be specific reviews, whether it's dewatering, economic development, historic district, NFP. We have some other city staff that we can always loop in for some of these more specialized projects. And then the process is designed where each one of these reviewers has an alternate. So if they're on vacation or they can't attend a meeting, they have an alternate in place. And lastly, sometimes I call it the 10th reviewer. Any interested citizen, we post all of the site plans once they're under review for full site plan on the city website. And then you can sign up for emails about it, or you can send an email if you have a question or just a comment about a plan under review. And I take a look at any of those that come in. So that's the group, that's the body. We meet every Wednesday. It's a weekly meeting, and we conduct the pre-site plans and full site plan reviews, which, as I said, have been conducted by Zoom since March of 2020. So with our new process, we conducted to a 2-meeting format. There's a pre-site plan and the full site plan. And some applicants, don't appreciate a second meeting, but the intent and I think the real achievement of the pre-site plan process is, instead of turning in the plan and then waiting for the review and finding out, some major inconsistencies, the pre-site plan is the opportunity where, as long as you've got a scale plan and the information relevant to the project, you get it in, it's a 1-page form, and we get it in front of the committee. So before someone develops a full plan or maybe spends that money, we give a full summary of anything we see. So that's designed to be a 1-week review. And after that meeting, if the meeting's held on Wednesday, before the end of the day on Friday, I provide a full summary and any applications, information that they need, or forms that they need to fill out to accompany the site plan. So then once the pre-site plan is done, the applicant makes their changes, updates the plan, and they return it to me with a second application. And the site plan is scheduled out 3 weeks from there. Again, it lands on a Wednesday, and that is then the full package, if you will. And once that's in our system, everyone reviews it. And 5 days before the meeting, I'm able to download the PDF that anyone has marked up and put comments on. And I provide anything preventing approval. I provide a summary or anything really, any comment to the applicant ahead of the meeting, so that when they come in for site plan review, if an approach needs to be moved or there's a significant concern, they're able to make some progress on it and propose a solution at the meeting when everyone's there to look at it. So we have the site plan meeting, which looks very similar to the pre-site plan. And as I said, we already know what the conversation is going to be. And at that point, either the site plan is approved, or if there's some more significant items that need to be taken care of, they turn in a revised site plan. And there typically isn't a meeting that follows that. That's where the plan is turned into me. Anyone that did not approve the plan, it goes in our system. We ask for a few days, and either that revision's approved or we're kind of whittling down the revisions to approval. And then once that process is done, the site plan is approved, and then it is put in our system, and then any permits that are on hold or anything they need to do to start permitting the project, any holds are lifted, and that's off to the races, if you will. And kind of the opposite end of it, site plan is some ways the beginning of the project and the end of the project. As things finish up, like they are for Kelsey Credit Union in Millwood, for example, that's where various staff or myself, we go out there and confirm things are done per the plan. So obviously, as I said, they're digital meetings. Every site plan has the 2 meetings, and something we've really found an advantage of with the process, I've got a little screenshot there. We're on Zoom, and I'm able to pull all the plans up, and we have real-time drawing on them. We're able to pull the comments up, the applicants can share. And in the little corner there, it might look a little overwhelming, but you'll see that's a little snapshot of our process where it shows every reviewer. And it allows me, think of me as, the primary point of contact through the whole thing. So I'm able to know the status, update the applicant. If something major comes in, I can let them know early in the review process. And it's worked really well given the disconnect caused by COVID, because we are split up between various offices and things like that. And so what happens is once the site plan is approved, that approved site plan is put in the exact same folder where we did our review. All the documents from the review are kept there. The approved site plan is there. And then what that allows is, as someone goes to develop a property, because of the review, in theory, in most cases, everything's already taken care of. There's no conflicts that come up on the site because we vetted a lot of the project. And whether someone needs to get their water service permitted, or they need a building permit, or they need a right-of-way permit, or they have environmental questions dealing with all these different staff, all of us are going to the same spot. It's all there and available 24 hours a day. And then again, as I said, once the project is done, usually myself or the zoning inspector, we're kind of checking off everything else on top of all the permits that are getting closed on the project. So that's the process as it's operated largely since the 2018 update, again, with the biggest change being conducting everything in this format by Zoom. One of the, and this process was developed in tandem with the redevelopment ready process. You know, it looked at our old process and we updated it. And one of the expectations of the process is once a year, us permitting staff, us being the committee, we just meet once a year at minimum to discuss the process. So what's working, what's not working, what can we fine tune, what do applicants like or not like? And I'm going to schedule one for the end of January, which is where we held it last year. In the early discussions about going to digital, I'm going to present that, probably rework a little bit of the way that it's operated in our permit system, and add some policy updates to coordination with outside agencies. So whether it's a county road right away, MDOT, Eagle, the utility companies, you know, we've really been able to forge those relationships and kind of learn when some other tandem approvals need to happen, similar to the Western BTR Park, working with Rockford Construction to make sure that lane is being addressed at the same time so there isn't some sort of disruption, because the other agencies, whether utilities or other municipal governments, they may have some other requirements to satisfy their review. So we try to get that all in so there isn't any surprise once they're starting to turn dirt. And the 2021 review, it was found that the digital process worked really well. Most of the committee found it was much easier to work on the screen, draw in real time, as opposed to all of us trying to huddle over a corner of an office. And we do have the ability, you know, in every site plan approval, I give a link for people to be able to tell us about the experience or what they thought about it. And I try to encourage the applicants to do that to help us understand what works better. So at the same time, at that late January meeting, I'll be able to work with the committee to find out what could change that could make their job easier to do it. So that's kind of the overview. That's the group. And, you know, I'm fine tuning some of my thoughts and recommendations, trying to gather data for that January meeting. So I'm already kind of looking ahead to keep things similar to how they operated and keep that moving forward in 2022. But I think the COVID pandemic, such as with everything, we've adjusted, and we're going to look at how are we going to conduct meetings moving forward, what works with the development community, what works with staff. And I just wanted to leave that last slide there as another reminder that site plans are posted for public viewing. I think that's a great tool. Oftentimes, I know myself included, you see some work going on, you don't know what's going on. So if you sign up for the links, you'll know any project before it starts, and you can either sign that up citywide or by neighborhood or which neighborhoods are of concern. So if there's any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them about any site-specific projects or this process at all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bobby. That's a great background and a really tight process you got there. And I do appreciate signing up for that email and getting those links when those site plans come out, and just having that sort of knowledge of what's going on. So really nice. Thank you. Any questions for Bobby or other staff about the site plan review process? No. All right. Well, good job. Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks again, everyone. Have a good night.
Thanks, Bobby. So I think that the The next presentation for you is going to be Jamie McCarthy to talk about the Kalamazoo Sustainability Strategy and give you an update on the process.
Thanks, Christina, and good evening, Chair Milliken and Commissioners. Thanks for having me. As Christina mentioned, I'm Jamie McCarthy, Sustainable Development Coordinator at the city, and I'm going to take a minute to share my screen. I have a few slides. I'll try to roll through this. Okay. Okay, can you see that all right? Excellent. So today I'm here to give an update on the city's sustainability plan that'll be coming out later this month. And before I talk about where we're going, I wanted to spend a minute to reflect on where we've been. We kicked off our planning initiative in the fall of 2019 with a community event and a sustainability survey. And then we spent the next couple of months promoting that survey. We found that really to engage folks and get responses to our survey, we needed to get out into neighborhoods, try to connect with residents, talk to other stakeholders, really looking for their early input. We also convened an advisory committee that had both internal to the city and external members. And that group helped us really form the foundation of the plan, thinking about some imperatives and what broad elements needed to be included in that plan. And if you recall, the idea of environmental sustainability and a climate action plan came from the city's strategic vision, came from IK 2025 and the city's master plan. And so we're taking a lot of directions from these plans and creating a more comprehensive strategy to think about the resilience of Kalamazoo and our response to climate change and other environmental issues. And as we were working with our advisory committee, we all agreed that we really needed to talk to some of the practitioners and that broader group of stakeholders to get some more input on what direction we needed to take and what actions were necessary. And so we convened 6 different focus groups that took us to the end of 2020. And we used these conversations to build an action table that we've been working internally with city departments on. We have over 75 or more actions that we feel like are needed for sustainability. And we're really working on, how do we prioritize that? That's a big, long list. And so what can we do now and over the next decade and longer? So, all right, what does the action table and what does this plan look like? It's centered around a 4-part vision. First, that we need to really strive toward climate goals that will reduce our carbon footprint, and that we need to reduce that dramatically to net zero by mid-century. The plan is certainly community-based. It's not just what the city or municipality owns, not our city footprint, but it really is the full community. All the different parts of the city are going to be need to, come together to be successful for our goals, to accomplish our goals. Third, that over the next several decades, we're going to see a lot of change, and that this is an opportunity where we need to be sure that as we work through this transition of our economy and the changes in our community, that we are as just and as equitable as we can be. And then last, that healthy people and a healthy ecosystem are necessary to be a resilient community in the future. And then you can see that from these 4 visions, we have 4 different themes that emerged. You'll see those in the colored boxes. And I'll just try to quickly go through these. But to start with, we have first a focus on our mobility or transportation network, and it talks about sustainable land use and how more density and infill is needed, and really how we make it easier for people to get around without that personal vehicle, how we can make changes that help the environment. Next, affordable efficient city focuses on things like energy waste reduction, how we must move toward decarbonizing our buildings to mitigate climate change, steps to encourage more investment in renewable energy here locally in Kalamazoo, and what we need to do as a city to prepare for this transition to what we're going to see a lot more electric vehicles. Then we have healthy prepared community, and this sets goals around increasing green space and tree canopy, talks about strategies for watershed protection, mitigating flooding, or what we can do to protect the natural community and how people and wildlife integrate together. A little behind on my slides here. Okay, last here is green circular economy. And this one really is part of the plan that explores ways to create a green or advance a green circular economy, ways we can reduce waste, divert materials that now go to landfills, thinking about ways to go from that more linear waste stream type economy to something that is much more sustainable. And I wanted to spend a moment here to give you some examples to highlight how Planning Commission might be implicated or connected to the plan. And so with Accessible Complete Network, this will be implemented through the city's master plan, through zoning ordinances in many ways. And so this board will probably see zoning changes or code amendments that will help to advance some of those goals. If you think about things like density, that's something that would likely come in front of this board with zoning changes. I also think that the renewable energy section and some of the actions around that is going to likely come to this board in some way. One of the first steps will be developing, a community vision around where renewable technology fits in the city and where it might not. And this will probably go back to zoning code and making sure in some cases where it does fit that we're allowing by right that renewable energy, those technologies can be, mounted on roofs or on the ground or things like that. And then last I have circled here the natural features and biodiversity as an example. I think the natural features protection work that you've done is a really great example of how Planning Commission can set standards that help shape and balance the built and the natural environment. Okay, so what is coming up here? We're currently in the internal review phase. You can see here, we're working with our departments on priorities. We're also working with the city's environmental concerns committee that's been guiding us and guiding this plan. The draft plan is going to be out later this month, and we're starting engagement now. So coming to this meeting, we also have a couple of events, community events that we're getting to this month, heading out to other boards and commissions and speaking at different groups through the end of the year. And then we're going to be speaking to the ECC a couple of times as they're the recommending body. And then we'll get some, we'll take that feedback, we'll incorporate what we hear and seek city commission approval and adoption in January. And to end, we have the information we wanted to point to the public. We're asking folks to head to the website. You can check out, we have a project page there. If we can see. Did my screen just go blank? It's imaginekalamazoo.com/projects/sustainability. You can sign up to get updates. You're going to be able to download the plan there later this month. And then you can also leave comments and feedback. So with that, I will take any comments folks have or questions.
Great, thank you for the presentation. We've heard about it, and I've heard a lot of notices and seen things, but I wasn't quite sure what to expect. So it's great to get that background and information. So thank you. Any questions for Jamie or other staff on the sustainability strategy? Did a great job. Awesome.
Well,
thank you very much.
And again, check that out.
Will do. Moving on, we got the site plan spreadsheet. Anything we need to talk through or identify on the site plan spreadsheet, or anything else from staff at this time? No, any questions on the spreadsheet from anybody? Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, public comments. Do we have any public comments on non-agenda items tonight?
No public comments on non-agenda items.
Great, thank you very much. City Commission liaison comments. Mr. Pradle, welcome. Thanks for sitting through.
Oh, of course, yeah. Always learn a great deal from being a part of these, so thank you. Good night, commissioners. Hope you're doing well. This is Commissioner Chris Pradle. Don't have a lot to report back on tonight, but I wanted to just update folks who may not have heard the election results. I'll start off by just acknowledging we have 4 on the commission who will be leaving us at this next meeting. Vice Mayor Patrice Griffin, Commissioner Aaron Knott, Commissioner Eric Cunningham, and then Commissioner Urban will be coming off the city commission here at the next meeting. You get to know these folks pretty darn well. It's like a dysfunctional family that you don't get to choose. And so, it's really, it's challenging to see people that you work that closely with and that you're a member of a team with to go on to go back to being private residents. After the election, Mayor Anderson was reelected to another 2-year term. Don Cooney was elected to vice mayor. He had the largest number of votes in the election. It was followed by Stephanie Hoffman, who will go on to commission, Kiana Decker, who will come on commission, and then Esteban Juarez, or Esto, will go on the commission as well. The way it works is since the 4th highest vote getter is basically filling in the remainder of the term for Vice Mayor Griffin, Esteban Juarez will serve a 2-year term. The rest of the commissioners will serve a 4-year term, so they'll be through 2025. And then Commissioner Hess and I are the only 2 returners who will serve through 2023. So anyway, so we do have quite a bit of turnover. I know they're still trying to iron out details about meeting format for the meeting next week, but they will be, the new commissioners will be sworn in on that meeting. So anyways, just wanted to provide an update on that and just share where that stood and congratulate those individuals as well who were elected to commission. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you for that. Planning commissioner comments. Any planning commissioners have comments this evening? Nothing, David? No? Okay. You want to share your question? No? Okay. All right. No. All right. Seeing no one jumping, I'm going to jump off this train. Wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Stay warm, stay safe on the roads, and enjoy your November. We'll see you in December. We looking at a December meeting, staff? Looking at a December meeting. Okay. We'll see you in a month. Nothing else on the agenda. This meeting's adjourned. Thanks. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.